If you're bored of playing the same old licks and lines, or you just want to explore new material, create new material for yourself, then this might be an approach for you. Check it out. Hi, I'm Steve. I love exploring the guitar. I love digging into the underlying principles behind the instrument. I love exploring music. I love discovering new techniques as well. And then I turn all of these ideas into new videos that I put live every week. So if that's the kind of thing that interests you, consider subscribing to the channel. So a week or so ago, I created a video talking about legato, different legato techniques, different approaches for playing legato on the guitar. And that got me into playing the guitar with the gain cranked right up and just having fun with it. Now what tends to happen when I do that is that I end up playing the same old lines that I always play, that I've played for years. And so I wanted to explore some new territory. Now when I have that kind of mood, what I like to do is to invent some rules for myself and then see where those rules take me, just explore them. Now in this case, the rules that I came up with were these. They were pretty straightforward. Firstly, I restricted myself to just 3 pitches, just because on the guitar, working things in groups of 3 is actually quite a useful thing to do, because you have 3 notes a string for a lot of scale shapes, or if you're playing pentatonics, you can reach 3 notes as well. Or if you're doing finger tapping, that tends to be 3 notes as well, is the easiest way of doing finger tapping. So I restricted myself to 3 notes. The other thing I did was I wanted to work in 16th notes. I wanted to play 4-note groupings. So I wondered just how many different ways are there of arranging 3 notes into a 4-note group. And if you work it out, if you do the maths on it, the number of combinations of that is 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, which is 81. So there are 81 different ways of playing 3 pitches in a 4-note grouping. Now, that's far too many to be playing around with, so what I wanted to do was cut that down. And there's a lot of combinations there that are not that useful, especially when you're playing legato. Now, one of the fundamental problems you have with legato is with repeated notes. It's very hard to play 2 notes repeated when you're just playing legato. So what I did was I went through that list and I cut out all of the phrases that contain 2 notes next to each other, a repeated note. And then finally, what I was going to do with these 4-note patterns was to start looping them. And again, if you start with a note and you finish with that same note again, you end up with a repeated note as you finish one phrase and start the next phrase. So I got rid of all of those as well. And after pruning down the list like that, I ended up with 12 notes, 12 4-note fragments, if you like. And when I had a look at those 12 4-note fragments, I found that they actually fell into 3 distinct groups. It was like there was a root form of each group. Let me play through for you. The 3 root forms are basically these. You've got, the first one is 1, 2, 1, 3, which sounds like this. The second one is 1, 2, 3, 2. And the third one is 1, 3, 2, 3. Now obviously you can use those over any scale shape. I mean, there I'm using 3 notes per string scale shapes, but you could use pentatonics, you can use arpeggios, you can even use tapped arpeggios. But in my case, I like to start with the 3 notes per string scale shapes just to get the motor skills moving on my hands. And actually what I did was I started with what I call the targeted patterns. Now I've spoken about this in previous videos and I'll put a link up there because I find these really useful. And what these are just 6 shapes which are just 3 string groupings, but they encompass all of the different string crossings that you may encounter when you're playing 3 notes per string scale shapes. So I find if I can find my way across all 6 of these, then I can play any 3 notes per string scale shape anywhere on the net. So I'll just pick one of the scale shapes and just play through with you. Now what I like to do is to alternate between legato and picking as well. Even though I was focused on legato, it's great to sort of keep both skills in step with each other. And so all I did was this. So hopefully you can see just alternating between legato and picking for each of the 6 scale shapes. And as I say, just go and check my video out and you'll see that I go into much more detail and I draw out all of the shapes. So hopefully you can see that once you start exploring like this, you can start to spiral out with ideas that can keep you going for weeks, especially when you start to work into other scale shapes, arpeggios, pentatonics, things like that. Now what I've done is I've taken these ideas and I've turned them into a PDF just so you've got something to work through yourself if you want to have a go at this. And these ideas, even though they can sound contrived, can create little fragments, little pieces of material that can spiral off into huge pieces of music. I mean, Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, the first movement of that, is a great example of a 4-note fragment that's used as a theme that just spirals off into some amazing directions. But anyway, hopefully that was useful for you, and we'll chat next time. Goodbye.